What's up, everybody? ODC here, and today's video I'm going to discuss Jedi Fallen Order by EA and Respawn. I'm just going to kind of give my overall thoughts and impressions and comments and concerns about the game. I have recently finished the game finally. Kind of took my time with it a little bit, and that was kind of my goal, was to take my time, take it easy, really try to explore everything before I finished the entire game and try to go from world to world. There will be spoilers in this, just so you know right off the bat, so it is a spoiler-esque discussion. This isn't really a review of the game, I guess. I guess you could kind of consider it that. It's just kind of an overview of the game. I don't want this to be too long of a video. And I normally don't do reviews of video games, but this is a video game that I think it's worth talking about. So you play as Cal Kestis, and he is a Padawan, yada, yada, yada. I mean, I'm not going to go through too much as far as the character goes, because, you know, if you want to find out more about the character, then you can just play the game. But I would say, you play as Cal, and going into this, I was already intrigued with the character, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is a young Padawan that is still learning, and hasn't been involved with using Force abilities for a while. You can tell by some of the flashback features that we've seen in the game that he was a young boy, and then he kind of, he went into hiding for a while, and then now he's become more of a young adult. And you can see that in the game that he's I want to say, he seems like, I don't know for sure, but he seems like he's in his maybe early 20s. The actor that plays Cal Kestis is Cameron Monaghan. And if you don't know who he is, or you're like, who the hell is this guy? He is... He plays the Joker in that show I don't watch, Gotham, because I just don't watch that show. It's just not my cup of tea. And then but he plays one of the brothers in Shameless, one of my favorite shows. So he plays Ian in Shameless. Sorry, but he's a very good actor. I enjoy him. And I think he did a really good job with this game and bringing the character to life. One of my favorite droids now, BD1. I love the little guy. I think he's fantastic, and I really enjoy the design of the character. He's like his little. It's like his little friend. When you don't have anybody else with you on an adventure. At every single moment, BD1 is there to help you, whether it's to give you these things called stems, which are kind of like your health while you're doing a battle, whether it's with regular, drones, small bosses, big bosses, whatever. He's always there to help you out, to scan things. He scans things automatically for you. You can also scan defeated enemies or dead enemies, and they'll give you a little profile after you defeat each enemy. So be sure to have BD1 scan stuff after you defeat an enemy. The next is Seer. Seer is an I shouldn't say ex-Jedi. She just kind of cut herself off. There's this weird thing in in modern Star Wars where these Jedi keep cutting themselves off from the Force. It's getting kind of tired and old. But whatever. I like Seer. I think she's also another intriguing character, and I'd like to see and learn more about. I find myself saying that a lot about this video game. And then you have Grease. He is the captain of the ship, which is named the Mantis, and he's a pretty cool character too. He's very similar to what we saw with the Solo, the Star Wars story. I forgot his name. Little forearm guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Sorry, just kind of doing this off the top of my head. No scripts here. But, you have those are your main three characters. And then obviously you have the second sister, and her name is Mirren. And that's when you play a lot of when you go to Dathomir, which is really cool. I was so excited when we found out you're actually going to be able to play in Dathomir. I wasn't really expecting Darth Maul at all, and spoiler alert, you really don't get Darth Maul in this, but you know that's fine with me. I just loved just exploring Dathomir and going through that and learning more about Mirren, and it's pretty cool. She actually becomes part of the crew down the road. So it's nice that you get to do that. And I want to say I spent most of my time trying to get Dathomir 100% done as much as I possibly could before I had to finish the game. And I think it's a nice little kind of you see some of that, a little bit of maybe like a flirtation maybe between the two, Cal and Mirren. So that's nice also. Then you have the second sister, and she is obviously an Inquisitor, a fallen Jedi that is not a Sith, by the way. I heard a lot of people saying, "Oh, that's what a great Sith she makes," and I'm like, no, she's not a Sith. But neither here nor there. She is a fallen Padawan learner, I should say. She's not technically a Jedi Knight. But she does turn and does work for Vader in this. And we also see the Ninth Sister. And Ninth Sister's design looks really cool. And if you guys haven't been reading most of the modern comics, I want to say Star Wars is some of the only really the modern comics that I really read lately, because and it's only very specifics. Like, I'll read some Dr. Aphra that doesn't really annoy me. I'll read like what was it? I'll read some of the like the kind of the Inquisitor stuff. I've read all of Dark Empire and all, or not Dark Empire. What am I talking about? That's Legends, idiot. I've been reading up. Point is, I've been reading up more and more. Shattered Empire is what I'm thinking of. Anyway, so I've been reading up more and more about the modern comics and enjoying those, and even the Maul run, which is kind of lackluster, but it's not too bad. But regardless of all of that, I'm going off topic here. You have this crew, you have your Inquisitors, and you have a whole multiple different worlds to go through. I think it's like 6 worlds total, including the final world that you kind of finish the game off in. You can't actually go back and replay that, so spoiler alert for that. I'm not going to actually keep saying spoiler alert because it's all spoilers. But you do, I think, get 6 different places to go, and that's pretty cool. As far as like the lightsaber combat, I don't really have too many issues with the lightsaber combat. I will say this, with the boss battles, you do kind of have to just get in the boss's faces and just wail on them. And then when you see them glowing red, that's when you evade, because that's not a blockable attack. So what you really want to do is you just kind of want to, when they light up red, dodge out of the way, and then get right back in their face and just go to town on them. That's kind of the parry system that people were talking about. I want to say it does set the stage. This does take place not right after, but a couple years after Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and it also takes place before Solo, A Star Wars Story. So it's not really that close to Episode 4. I believe the timeline goes Episode 3, Fallen Order. Sorry, my voice is like cracking. Jedi Fallen Order, Han Solo, Solo, A Star Wars Story, then Rogue One, then Episode 4. So that's pretty much how that timeline goes. Oh, you could also put Rebels in there too. Sorry. Oh no, wait. Rebels. Yeah, you put Rebels in there also. So I think this takes place like the closest to Episode 3 that any of them do. So there's that also, which is fine. I don't mind that we're getting some close to prequel stuff. I think a lot of the character designs are very well done. Like, I love the design of the second sister, and all the Inquisitors look really good. I like the variety that you get with a lot of the Inquisitors. I know you only get the ninth sister and the second sister in this, but I just enjoy kind of that story of the fallen Padawan slash Jedi that turned to work with Vader and became these Inquisitors, kind of hunting down the rest of the Jedi. Because I mean, you got to think about this. There's tons of other Jedi, not just the ones that we saw in the movies, that are still around. So it makes perfect sense. And while a lot of people, and I want to rant for a second about the prequels, a lot of people want to give shit about the prequels and all that, like the atypical thing to say about the prequels. Oh, they were shit because of this same reason. I get it. If you don't like it, great. But the major thing that the prequels did was expand on so much more lore than the originals did. Whether it's fighting ability, whether it's different lightsabers, whether it's more Jedi to read into and learn about. The lore was expanded much more with the prequels, and you got much more information with them than you did with the original trilogy. Not saying that you didn't get any lore with the original trilogy, but you got a lot more of an expanded universe with the OT or with the prequels than you did with that. I mean, there's fighting abilities, there's all that stuff. So anyway, that aside, it's nice to see that we're getting some close to prequel stuff. I would love to see a sequel to this game. I think that's warranted, and it does leave it open at the end for that. So that's pretty cool. I like I said, I like all the character designs. Everyone looks really good. I love the Purge Troopers. I think the Purge Troopers are fantastic. I like the variety that you get. Some have regular, I want to say the regular clone trooper. They're not E11 blasters. They have the regular clone trooper blasters. I can't remember the name of them off the top of my head, so I apologize. I should know that, but they also have the I think it's, I'm trying to think what they're called, but they have the long range blasters. Some have the short range blasters, the long range blasters. Then they have the there's other Purge troopers that have like these big like axes kind of, or like they're like a hammer. That's pretty awesome. And what else? There's also the one with like, they're kind of like a screama sticks. I should have looked up the names of these so I knew them, but they have like 2 baton sticks. Those are pretty cool. And like I said, they each one of them are a little bit more difficult. I want to say that the most difficult Purge Trooper was probably the one with the longer rifle and the big hammer that you see. And then you also have the staff, the one with the kind of double electrified staff, which is also pretty cool. So I'd like to see Black Series figures of those. Even if they gave us just another release of the Purge Trooper with the sticks, the staff, and the hammer, that would make my day. Because we already got the ones with the blasters, and that makes sense perfectly. But I'd also like to see the other ones as well. So maybe we'll get that down the road. I think personally, now speaking from a toy collector standpoint, I think personally this game could issue a subline. There's a ton of different stuff that you could add into this. There's a couple bounty hunters in this that you could add into the Black Series. This is now canon, so I think that warrants more attention for Black Series figures. I think we only got 2-3 figures out of this: the Purge Trooper, Cal, BD1, which came with Cal, and the second sister. So I'd like to see some more. I'd like to get the rest of the crew. I'd like to get Seer. I would like to get Grease, and I would like to get Mirren, and maybe the ninth sister. And like I said, more Purge Troopers. The more Purge Troopers, the merrier. I think it would be even really cool if we got like some of the little like creatures that you have to fight too. Maybe like a little creature pack or something. That's something that Hasbro really has not wanted to been doing. They don't like doing like little creatures and such like that. Background characters. They don't like doing that. They only like going after the the mainstay ones, but maybe they could do some sort of exclusive or something like that. That would be nice. Also, I would like to see maybe a updated Cal with a poncho and maybe different style lightsaber blades, because it's kind of like you choose your own for Cal, and that's what I'm going to segue into next. Is I'd like to talk about some of the customization in the game. The customization is pretty cool for what you can do. It is on the more simplified manner as far as that's concerned, but overall I think it's pretty well done, and I would have liked maybe a little bit more variety there with that, and that would have been nice. If we got if you could switch up his outfit or something like that. He kind of just has the same outfit the whole time. I tend to try to think more logically when I play. And I'm like, okay, well, if he's on a more of a muggy, hot planet, he's not wearing a poncho. If he's on a colder planet, like when you have to find your kyber crystal for Cal, then he wears a poncho. You know what I mean? Some people were just having him wear the poncho the whole time, and I was like, oh, but you're taking away from all the awesome detail when he moves around in his regular suit. So I like to have him in his regular suit for the majority of the game. And then when, like I said, the climates would change per planet, he'd have his poncho on. Anyway, that's just my way of thinking. But it'd be cool to get a figure of him with his poncho and such like that. But yeah, the customization's pretty cool. You can get different colored ponchos. You can get different hilts. You also can get, if you go to Dathomir, you can get a double-bladed lightsaber, which is pretty nice. I'm trying to think. I know I'm umming you guys to death, but I'm trying to think off the top of my head here. You can also customize the color of your lightsaber, and he also, obviously this is spoiler heavy. You can detach your double-bladed lightsaber and make it a dual-wielding lightsaber later on in the story, but you do have to progress through the story to acquire that. After you get your kyber crystal, and it'll kind of explain itself. But I think it's pretty cool. His lightsaber is kind of an amalgamation of Seer's lightsaber and his master's lightsaber. I can't remember his name, but I'd also like a figure of him too. Side note. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I think it's kind of like, he's paying homage to Seer and his Jedi master. So I think that's pretty cool, while throwing his own look and feel into his lightsaber as well. So throughout the game, like I said, you're going to find a bunch of different little boxes. Sorry, stuffy nose. You're going to find a whole bunch of different boxes and such, and once you find those, you will get different items, like whether it's different colored ponchos, or you'll get different pieces for lightsabers, whether it's lightsaber switches or lightsaber hilt pieces here and there, different designs and such that you'll see probably throughout the game for other characters as well, that you can customize for your own. So that's really cool. I like that as well. Like I said, the overall, the game just feels polished. It feels well done. Yeah, I keep hearing the same complaints about the game, and I get it. Sure, yeah, it feels like Dark Souls and Uncharted, and that's all people say over and over and over and over and over again. Who gives a shit? I don't care if it feels like Dark Souls or Uncharted. It's a fun game. It plays well. Obviously they did have a patch because some people were having issues with falling and sliding and such, but they got that fixed, and I really didn't have any issues with that. Once you get the double jump in the game and you start really opening up a lot of the other force abilities, which you do, and a lot of people also complain, oh, he doesn't have, his force abilities are very basic and blah, blah, blah. Well, he was a Padawan that took years off from and in hiding to keep all of himself hidden from the Empire. So it makes sense that he would be going through this game and you're progressing with him again. He kind of forgets how to do things, and it's kind of like when I skateboarded for like 7 years, right? And I just started picking skateboarding up occasionally here and there. My ollie is not as high as it used to be. My kickflip is not as polished as it used to be. It just makes sense to have to go through the learning process with him again, and it helps with progression with the game. So it just overall, I don't really have any complaints with any of that. I don't have any complaints with really how you your learning abilities. I don't have too many issues with the meditation areas. A lot of people complain about that. Oh, you shouldn't have to go back all the way there and blah 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 and all that. I don't have any issue with that. If the game isn't challenging enough, then you're gonna bitch. People are gonna bitch about challenging, and it's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. If you make it challenging, people bitch about it. If you don't make it challenging enough, people bitch about it. So it's just like I'm glad they kind of stuck to their guns and did their own thing with this. It made sense. I have not played any. I've never played Dark Souls. I've played Uncharted, which I don't mind that kind of the puzzle pieces that they give you. I think that's pretty cool to kind of challenge yourself and have puzzles that are challenging. I always liked that with the Arkham games, that you would get little puzzles and try to figure that out, or the Riddler challenges and such like that. So I always like puzzles in games. Those are always fun. You can kind of take your time, open up your brain, think for yourself, and figure things out, and it's rewarding at the end. So that's pretty cool. I can enjoy that. I can always get behind that. The discovery level of it, I like that. What I don't like is you're throughout the game you're kind of just fighting the same old, same old. You know, it does get kind of monotonous, repetitive a little bit. It's not too much where it's really going to have my dog's making noises. Sorry. It's not too much where you're really going to be like, oh, this game sucks. It's not on that level, but when you're fighting the same spider over and over again, or you're fighting the same Death Myrians over and over again, it does get kind of boring. It does make the game feel kind of hollow a little bit. It's like, okay, he's just fighting, a large monster, another frog monster, a Death Myrian with like a mace, I want to say, and then you get the archers, and I want to say you get mostly like stormtroopers, scout troopers, which I was actually really pleased to see, and maybe we'll get some updated scout troopers with some different weaponry. That would be pretty cool. I actually wouldn't mind a full re-release of the Black Series scout trooper with maybe like a pauldron like they showed in the game, and a melee weapon and such. That would be pretty cool, I think, also. You also get some heavy artillery troopers in this, stormtroopers. I feel like you actually fight more beasts in this game than stormtroopers. Maybe towards the end that's not as true, because you do fight a lot of them. There is a lot of the enforcer droids, very similar to K2SO. But you can actually hack them with BD1 and have them fight with you. So that's pretty cool. But you have to get them down to a certain energy level or health level before you can hack them. I'm trying to think what else while everything's still fresh in my head. I want to say, like I said, the level designs look fantastic. Like I said, if there's major gripes I have, like I said, it's maybe some of the parrying at times can get a little glitchy. That kind of does bother me, but I think since the patch, it's been fixed for the most part. The swimming mechanics, you do swim in this. The swimming mechanics are pretty cool. Some of the boss battles are a little meh. It's like, why am I fighting a big bat? I get it, but there's a lot of cool moments in it, and I guess I don't really have too much of an issue. I would kind of hope that, if you have Inquisitors after you, you'd have maybe one more Inquisitor coming after you. I know I think by this time you can, I think that since this takes place before Rebels, I want to say you could have had some of the other Inquisitors in this, but it's still pretty cool. Like I said, the bat boss battle, the what was it, the Gora or something like that, Gora Gara, or I can't pronounce whatever the hell his name is. It's very kind of similar to the Force Unleashed 2 when you're fighting the large looking Rancor. I can't remember the name of that either. Good Lord. I know. I guess somebody in the comments probably be like, you don't know any of this stuff. Yeah, well, I can't remember every name. So, bite me. Anyway, it is kind of similar to that where you get this big epic battle where you're flying through the air and the bat, you're flying with the bat and you got to land on the bat. So it is kind of similar to that in certain aspects here and there, which it still can be. It's still fun. It's still fun to play. And that's the major thing. Is the game fun to play? Yes, it absolutely is. The health meter, you get a health meter with a certain amount of stems, and you acquire them throughout your progression with the game. So that's nice to do as well. But, and I'm probably forgetting some stuff here too. You do deal with like a lot of plant life that's trying to harm you throughout the game, and you kind of have to avoid things at times if you're trying to get to maybe an objective and you don't want to deal with fighting things that you don't necessarily have to. You could probably just run past them and skip them. The wall running mechanic is okay. I don't have too much of an issue. I want to say I did find myself at times trying to figure out where I had to jump to before I had to go. So there's a lot of prep and planning in this, and it kind of makes sense tactically. You don't want to just run and jump into something and then you just keep dying. I found myself just kind of trying to take a step back, look, and be as observant as possible with the level design and how it was going. Same thing for the puzzles. Instead of just jumping into the puzzle, try to figure out what exactly I had to do before I got there. Yeah, overall, like I said, I do have some critiques with it, but I want to say this is probably one of the best Star Wars games that we've got since KOTOR and The Force Unleashed. And like I said, if and I hear a lot of people trying to compare this to Force Unleashed, and I don't really think that they're comparable, because The Force Unleashed is like God mode for a Jedi. That's essentially what it is. And you can't really compare a Padawan to a God mode Jedi. Cal Kestis is not Starkiller. I don't really think it's fair to compare both of them. They both run on different engines. It's different eras, different times. One is canon and one, I guess, never really was canon. It was kind of like a what-if character. While I like and enjoy the character of Starkiller, he's not really all that logical. I mean, he's got powers of Luke Skywalker at his best. So it's not really a comparable thing, and I don't really think it's fair for anybody to make that comparison between the two. It's apples and oranges. So that's what I think. And I don't think that Cal should have all of those crazy powers. I think the powers that he does exude throughout the game and that you do learn are well warranted, and they fit the character perfectly. While it's cool to have all this unbridled power, even learning about the character, its power isn't the Jedi way. It's not about seeking power. It's about seeking peace and being a peacekeeper and all of that. So, I don't mind his limited power set, and I don't also I like that he's got specific powers that he does use that you learn about his character throughout with the flashbacks that you learn. And every time you go through a flashback, you kind of learn a new ability, which I also think is a nice little touch. So, and I want to say overall with the story, I think it's a really well done story. I think that the play time is pretty good. I want to say it's around 16 hours for playtime with depending on what difficulty you play on. I played. I was yes. I know. I'm gonna get flack for this, but I'm being honest. The first time in any game, I always play it on the easiest difficulty, so I can just get the story that I want and not have to get too frustrated. But I always end up going back and playing it on a harder difficulty, like on hard or Master Jedi or whatever it is. But yeah, for the most part, very likable story. I really did appreciate it. I can't wait to get a sequel. I think with the success of this, for the most part, I want to say a lot of people do enjoy this game, will enjoy this game, and if you haven't played it, maybe you're on the fence and you don't know what you want for this. I would say give it a go, give it a try. I think it's actually worth your money. There's no microtransactions. There's no pay to win. There's none of that crap in this. It's just a game. And it's a very well done game. And this is the future, I think, for this specific franchise, the Jedi, Star Wars Jedi franchise. I think this is the route that they need to continue for this specific one. What I would like to see from the Star Wars gaming brand or EA or whoever in the future is I'd like to see a game where it is open world, where you have character customization, and you do have, and I mean full-fledged character customization, like you create your character from scratch, create their class, but create it on a platformer level too, not just like a SWOTOR level. I want to feel like I'm progressing through a story with a character that I did create, and I think it'd be cool to play as a smuggler or a bounty hunter, or some sort of maybe like a Jedi Sentinel, something like that, where you can play around with that. Especially the Jedi Sentinel. If you don't know what a Jedi Sentinel is, it's if I was a Jedi, I'd be a Jedi Sentinel. Some Jedi Sentinels have Force ability powers, but not all of them do. Not all Jedi had Force ability powers. Were Force sensitive. Excuse me. Some Sentinels, that's the class of them. You had Guardians, which had blue lightsabers. You had your Counselors, which had green lightsabers, and were more in tune to the Force. And then you had your Sentinels also. And the Sentinels would also kind of work more within covert ops. They had yellow-bladed lightsabers, which were much more rare, so there weren't as many Jedi Sentinels. I want to say when Luke Skywalker had his, he was a Jedi Master, and my God, my nose is so stuffed. When he was a Jedi Master in Legends, he had adopted some Jedi Sentinels like Kyle Katarn, and there was also Bashla Stan was a Jedi Sentinel. So they work a little bit more covert ops, and they don't dress in the typical Jedi garb. I can almost see Cal Kestis as a Jedi Sentinel because he doesn't wear the traditional Jedi garb. And I mean, while he was a Padawan, he doesn't now. So I could see that. Sorry, I had to. Yes. But that would be pretty cool to get different in a future installment. Not talking about this one because I feel like this is where you could get your Jedi, your typical Cal Kestis Jedi story from with Respawn. I feel like another company should gravitate towards an open world. Like I said, maybe not as much as like maybe not as much as like a KOTOR or SWOTOR level of play design, but more of like a Grand Theft Auto, where you have control. You're on a very large map. Maybe you could travel from world to world and kind of, pick and choose what you want your character to do. I feel like Star Wars still needs that in modern day with modern graphics, and you can go through that world and create the character that you really want. While playing Old Republic is fun and such, you know, it is that type of game, role-playing style game. And while it's fun to play and I still go back and play it, you know, it has its own feel to it. It's kind of, you know, your typical role-playing style game, you know. It's not maybe more of a Grand Theft Auto style, you know, where you can really you do have an open world where you can explore and do cool things, but you don't have that. You also have that story to it as well, where it's not as drawn out as a role-playing game or an MMO. Excuse me, I keep saying role-playing game. It's an MMO. But overall, like I said, sorry for going off on tangents. Just I get thoughts in my head and I have to spout them out. But overall, I enjoy the game. I think all of you will enjoy it. If you haven't played it, maybe you're on the fence, I'd say I give this a full recommend. The positives far outweigh the negatives with this, and without having any microtransactions or pay to win or any of that bullshit in it, I think that this was a game, especially Star Wars fans needed, and just gamers in general needed as well. And I hope in the future that we get more games like this. I wouldn't be opposed to having some sort of maybe DLC added onto this game in the future. Maybe Respawn will do that. Maybe they won't. Maybe this is just this is what it is and that's it. I could probably see maybe them leaning towards this is it and then that's it and then move on. But you know, it'd be really cool to see a sequel to this, to say the least. So. The other cool thing that I do want to note is that once you do finish the story mode, and if you still want to explore the different worlds and such, and go back and fight different characters, you can always go do that. So that's pretty cool as well. I can appreciate that. And yeah, I don't know. Like I said, 2 thumbs up, way up for this, and I definitely give this a full recommend. And go play it. It's a lot of fun, and it's got replayability. And the story is well done. You'll especially like the ending. I'm not going to spoil that, but, you know, you can figure that out for yourself if you want to. Very fun game. And, yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys on the flip side.